How do you know if your child may be a prodigy? Do they have advanced reading skills from an early age? Can they pick up an instrument and start playing it without any formal training? Perhaps they can do simple to complex arithmetic in their head without any formal education. When they look at a chessboard, they can strategize an entire game. Or they can build things that only a scientific mind with years of education could accomplish. We bet you didn't know these 5 famous child prodigies who helped change the face of history. Number 1. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. The Austrian-born wunderkind composed his first piece of published music at age 5, and by his teen years he had already written several concertos, sonatas, operas, and symphonies. Mozart traveled widely through Europe, exhibiting his talents in royal courts and public concerts. Audiences marveled at the boy wonder's ability to improvise and play the piano blindfolded or with one hand crossed over the other. Mozart would eventually grow into one of Europe's most celebrated and prolific composers. At age 14, he transcribed Gregorio Allegri's Miserere from memory after hearing it performed at the Sistine Chapel, and returned a few weeks later to make only minor corrections to his notes. Mozart, of course, went on to become one of the greatest composers of the classical period, and the early realization of his abilities allowed him the time to create more than 600 works before his untimely death at the age of 35. Number 2. Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz. Born Juana Ramirez de Asabe in the Viceroyalty of New Spain, or present-day Mexico, there weren't many pathways to success for girls born to unwed parents in 17th century Mexico, but she managed to transcend her origins with a dazzling mind and a deft pen. As a child, she was inquisitive and gregarious. By the age of 3, she could read. By 6, she had started asking permission to cut her hair short and disguise herself as a boy so she could attend university. Largely self-taught, she wrote her first dramatic poem at age 8. She studied the Greek classics and was such a voracious reader that she allegedly mastered Latin in just 20 lessons and was instructing children in Latin by age 13. When she was about 16, her aunt and uncle presented her to the court of Viceroy Marquis de Manquera. The New Spain Viceroy arranged about 40 professors who quizzed her on all of her knowledge. Within 4 years, she left to pursue the sisterhood to avoid marriage and to continue her studies. In 1669, she entered the convent of San Jeronimo, where she lived until her death. Sor Juana penned Respuesta al Sol Filotea, Response to Sister Filotea, which many scholars considered the first feminist manifesto. In it, she defended, among other rights, a woman's right to education. Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz is known and revered today for her wisdom, talent, and bravery. Number 3. Enrico Fermi. Before his work on radioactivity won him the Nobel Prize and helped usher in the nuclear age, Enrico Fermi was considered a mathematics and physics prodigy. The Italy native showed signs of having a photographic memory as a boy, and by age 10, he was spending his free time mulling over geometric proofs and building electric motors. At 13 years of age, he began burying himself in books on trigonometry, physics, and theoretical mechanics. He then applied to the University of Pisa in 1918, wowing the admissions panel with a doctoral-level essay that solved the partial differential equation of a vibrating rod. Fermi achieved his post-secondary degree from the school several years early at the age of just 21. He later conducted groundbreaking experiments in neutron bombardment and nuclear chain reactions before becoming one of the lead physicists on the Manhattan Project, the secret research program that developed the atomic bomb. He was awarded the 1938 Nobel Prize for Physics, and the Enrico Fermi Award of the U.S. Department of Energy is given in his honor. After the war ended, Fermi accepted a permanent position at the University of Chicago. He was also known as a superb teacher, and many of his lectures are still in print. During his later years, he raised a question now known as the Fermi paradox. He asked, "Where is everybody?" He was asking why no extraterrestrial civilization seemed to be around to be detected, despite the great size and age of the universe. He pessimistically thought that the answer might involve nuclear annihilation. Number 4. Pablo Picasso. Born October 25, 1881 in Malaga on the southern coast of Spain, Pablo Picasso could supposedly draw before he could talk. Picasso made his first oil painting when he was 9 years old. By age 13, he was said to have outmastered his father, an art teacher. As a result, his father allegedly handed over his brushes and palette to Picasso and swore that he would never paint again. At age 14, he was admitted to a prestigious Barcelona art school. Just a year later, he completed First Communion, an astonishingly mature work that was displayed in a public exhibition. And at age 16, Picasso created his award-winning Science and Charity. He then went through his so-called blue and rose periods from 1901 to 1906, in which he depicted such things as poverty-stricken children and circus scenes, respectively. Les Demoiselles de Avignon, a distorted portrait of 5 prostitutes, came in 1907. It opened the door for Cubism, an abstract style that reduces subjects to geometric forms. By 1912, Picasso had invented collage by attaching oilcloth, newspaper clippings, and other materials to the surface of his paintings. This, along with an increased emphasis on color, precipitated a transition from what's known as analytic cubism to synthetic cubism. Though best known for his painting, Picasso experimented with a number of different mediums, including sculpture, ceramics, drawing, and printmaking. From 1917 to 1924, he even designed the curtain, sets, and costumes for a handful of ballets. Picasso started writing poetry in 1935, and he also authored 2 plays in the 1940s. The Spanish Civil War kicked off in July 1936, and he painted Guernica for the 1937 World's Fair in Paris. During his lifetime, Picasso created over 20,000 paintings, drawings, sculptures, ceramics, and other items such as costumes and theater sets. On April 8, 1973, Picasso died at the age of 91 at his villa in France in the company of his second wife, Jacqueline Roch, and his oldest son, Paolo. His cause of death was a pulmonary edema, or fluid in the lungs. Number 5. Bobby Fischer. Born in Chicago, Illinois in 1943, Bobby Fischer began playing chess at age 6 after his big sister purchased a $1 chess set. His talent had blossomed by age 13 when Fischer defeated former U.S. champion Donald Byrne in the Game of the Century. At age 14, Fischer outplayed 200 of the country's top-ranked players to win the U.S. Open Chess Championship in 1957, becoming the youngest national champion. At 15, he became the youngest player at the time to receive the title of Grandmaster, a feat achieved by beating other top chess professionals in international competitions. But the match that cemented Fischer as America's first and arguably its only bona fide chess superstar was his much-hyped trouncing of the Soviet chess master Boris Spassky in 1972 to become the reigning world chess champion. No American has claimed the title since. Sadly, Fischer's genius at chess came at a cost to his personal life. With a reported IQ of 181, Fischer was bored and restless in school, dropping out of high school at age 16. As a teen, he obsessed over chess every waking hour, pouring through the archives at New York City's Marshall Chess Club to replay thousands of old games and develop new strategies. Unfortunately, after these early successes, an increasingly erratic Fischer became better known for his bigoted rants and troubles with the law, though his place in history is secure thanks to the early show of brilliance that popularized the insular game of kings. Fischer died in exile in Iceland at 64 years old, a fugitive from American officials for playing an unsanctioned chess tournament in Yugoslavia against Spassky for $5 million in 1992. Fischer won. For more interesting facts in history, subscribe to Bet You Didn't Know on YouTube.